Welcome back, dear friends, those of you who, like me, find joy not just in watching films but in unraveling their deeper meanings, those hidden layers where stories truly live. I'm thrilled you're here with me again at Screen Studies, where we dive beyond the surface and explore cinema as a rich text, one full of symbolism, emotion, and intellectual challenge. Before we embark on today's journey, if you value these thoughtful, in-depth conversations, please consider liking this video and subscribing. Your support helps us cultivate a community of curious minds eager to engage with film on a deeper level. And just to be clear from the outset, what follows isn't a typical movie review. This is a deeply intellectual, theoretical, and critical analysis aimed especially at those with a background in literature, focused on education and insight. Think of it as a shared conversation among friends who love to explore cinema with both heart and mind. Today's story invites us into a world where fairy tale and reality entwine in unsettling ways, a retelling that challenges traditional narratives and asks us to reconsider the roles we assign, the labels we carry, and the stories we tell ourselves about beauty, worth, and identity. At its core, the film reimagines a classic tale from an unexpected perspective, focusing on the figure often sidelined, the ugly stepsister. This shift in viewpoint not only breathes fresh life into a familiar story but also opens a space for reflection on themes of otherness, power, and transformation. From the first moments, the film wraps itself in a lush, almost hypnotic atmosphere. The cinematography captures a world that is at once dreamlike and starkly real, where opulent settings sit beside raw, intimate moments. This contrast creates a visual language that feels both enchanting and unsettling, inviting viewers to question what lies beneath the surface gloss. The narrative unfolds with a measured pace, allowing space for character depth and thematic resonance rather than rushing toward spectacle. Plot-wise, the story centers on a young woman cast into the shadows by familial expectation and societal judgment. Unlike the traditional fairy tale where the ugly stepsister is a mere foil to the heroine's radiance, here she is the protagonist, complex, flawed, and deeply human. We follow her journey through trials that test her resilience and self-understanding, encountering allies and adversaries whose own stories intertwine with hers in unexpected ways. The film weaves moments of tenderness with stark confrontations, charting a course toward self-acceptance and redefinition. A central tension in the story arises from the protagonist's struggle against external forces that seek to define her identity and limit her potential. Her relationship with her stepfamily is fraught with power dynamics and emotional complexity, serving as a microcosm for broader societal attitudes toward difference and beauty. This narrative thread offers fertile ground for analysis, raising questions about conformity, rebellion, and the politics of appearance. The film also introduces elements of magical realism that blur the boundaries between fantasy and reality. These moments are not mere embellishments but integral to the protagonist's psychological landscape, symbolizing internal conflicts and desires. The interplay between the magical and the mundane enriches the story's texture, inviting multiple interpretations and deepening its emotional impact. Major plot twists challenge viewer expectations, subverting familiar fairy tale tropes and inviting us to reconsider the meanings we attach to roles like stepsister, beauty, and worth. These narrative surprises are crafted not for shock alone but to provoke reflection on identity's fluidity and the power of perspective. The film's conclusion resists neat resolution, instead offering an open-ended meditation on transformation and acceptance. What draws me personally to this film is its courage to center a character traditionally marginalized, giving voice to experiences often overlooked. It resonates with my own reflections on how stories shape our understanding of ourselves and others, and how reclaiming narratives can be a radical act. Watching this tale unfold felt like witnessing a gentle revolution, a reclaiming of power through empathy and nuance. As we prepare to delve deeper into the cinematic world, I invite you to join me in setting aside preconceived notions about fairy tales and characters. Let's approach this story with fresh eyes and open hearts, ready to uncover its layers and embrace its complexities. Together, we'll explore how this film challenges conventions, redefines identity, and uses cinematic language to tell a story both timeless and urgently contemporary. Thank you for being here, for sharing in this exploration. Let's begin our journey into a world where beauty is reimagined, and where the ugly stepsister's story takes center stage, inviting us to rethink what it means to belong, to be seen, and to be whole. There's a certain stillness that blankets the opening scenes, a hush that invites you in, like stepping softly into a room where secrets linger in the air. The film begins by introducing us to a world suspended between fairy tale and reality, a landscape both familiar and strange. It's a place where grandeur and decay coexist, where shimmering ballrooms contrast with shadowed corners, and where the line between magic and melancholy blurs. Into this delicate world steps our protagonist, the so-called ugly stepsister, who is immediately set apart, not by grand gestures, but by subtle details, a fleeting glance, a hesitant step, a whispered conversation behind closed doors. From the outset, the story immerses us in her perspective, revealing the contours of her inner life with a quiet intensity. Unlike the traditional narrative where she is a flat antagonist, here she is a deeply human figure, shaped by isolation, longing, and the weight of expectation. We watch as she navigates the household ruled by her stepmother, whose rigid ideals of beauty and propriety cast long shadows. The tension between them is palpable, conveyed through carefully framed scenes that emphasize distance and control, a silent battle of wills played out in glances and unspoken words. The protagonist's relationship with her stepsister, the one who embodies the conventional idea of beauty and grace, is layered and complex. Their interactions oscillate between moments of fragile connection and sharp rivalry, reflecting the tangled emotions of jealousy, admiration, and sibling bond. The film doesn't simplify their dynamic but allows it to breathe, showing how love and competition can coexist, complicating the characters' motives and desires. This nuanced portrayal invites us to reconsider the familiar archetypes of fairy tale siblings. A key development early in the narrative is the arrival of the prince, a figure whose presence disrupts the fragile equilibrium of the household and the broader social world. His charm and mystery captivate many, but the film steers clear of portraying him as a simplistic hero. Instead, he becomes a catalyst for change and revelation, a mirror reflecting the desires and fears of those around him. The interactions between the prince and the protagonist are charged with subtlety, hinting at possibilities that transcend surface attraction. This relationship opens a space to explore themes of identity, acceptance, and the yearning for connection. The film carefully unfolds the protagonist's personal journey against the backdrop of societal expectations and fairy tale conventions. She is caught between who she is and who others expect her to be, navigating a world that prizes appearance over substance. Scenes depicting social gatherings, dances, and whispered gossip reveal the pressures and judgments that define her environment. The storytelling here is both elegant and incisive, using setting and dialogue to illuminate the protagonist's isolation and determination. An important moment arises when the protagonist discovers a secret, a glimpse into the hidden truths of her family and her own lineage. This revelation shifts the narrative's trajectory, infusing the story with mystery and urgency. The way this discovery is woven into the plot is subtle yet powerful, serving as a metaphor for self-knowledge and the breaking of illusions. It propels the character toward a reckoning with her identity and her place in the world. Magical realism is interlaced throughout these early scenes, manifesting in fleeting images, a shimmering reflection, a whispered voice, an impossible bloom, that blur the boundaries of reality. These elements are never overt but seep into the narrative like a gentle tide, enriching the story's texture and inviting multiple interpretations. They symbolize the protagonist's internal struggles and hopes, giving form to emotions that words cannot fully capture. The narrative's pacing in this section is deliberate, allowing moments to unfold with quiet power. Scenes linger on small gestures, a touch, a glance, a sigh, building emotional resonance. This approach encourages viewers to inhabit the protagonist's experience intimately, feeling the weight of longing and the sting of exclusion. It's a storytelling style that values subtlety over spectacle, introspection over action. Conflict begins to simmer as the protagonist challenges the roles imposed upon her. Her attempts to assert herself, to seek recognition beyond appearance, meet resistance both overt and covert. These tensions are expressed through confrontations with her stepmother, social rivals, and even her own doubts. The film portrays these struggles with empathy, showing the costs and courage involved in claiming one's voice. Supporting characters enter the narrative with complexity, each embodying different facets of the protagonist's world and the film's themes. Friends and foes alike complicate her journey, offering moments of support, betrayal, or ambiguity. Their stories interweave with hers, creating a rich tapestry of relationships that deepen the emotional stakes. The film resists easy binaries, portraying these figures as fully human, capable of kindness and cruelty, loyalty and self-interest. Visually, the film uses its settings to mirror the protagonist's emotional landscape. The grandeur of the household contrasts with moments of quiet confinement, reflecting her oscillation between aspiration and entrapment. The cinematography captures this duality through contrasts of light and shadow, open spaces, and claustrophobic interiors. These images convey unspoken tensions and hopes, enriching the narrative's psychological depth. The protagonist's inner world is further explored through dreamlike sequences and symbolic imagery. These moments provide insight into her fears and desires, functioning as visual poetry that complements the unfolding plot. The film's use of color, texture, and movement in these sequences invites reflection on identity and transformation, elevating the story to a mythic dimension. A particularly poignant development occurs when the protagonist faces a moment of rejection or failure, a turning point that tests her resilience. This scene is crafted with emotional honesty, avoiding melodrama to reveal vulnerability and strength in equal measure. It serves as a catalyst for growth, setting the stage for her eventual assertion of self. The narrative's first arc culminates in a scene of confrontation or revelation that brings underlying tensions to the fore. This climax is charged with dramatic and emotional intensity, forcing characters to confront truths and make choices that will shape their futures. The film handles this moment with subtlety, focusing on character and theme rather than spectacle, making it resonate deeply. Throughout these developments, the film engages with themes of otherness and acceptance, exploring how identity is shaped by external perceptions and internal truths. The protagonist's journey challenges societal norms and fairy tale conventions, inviting viewers to reconsider notions of beauty, worth, and belonging. This thematic exploration is woven seamlessly into the plot and character arcs, enriching the story's emotional and intellectual impact. Reflecting on this portion of the story, what lingers is its delicate balance of realism and fantasy, struggle and hope, isolation and connection. The film invites us to sit with complexity and ambiguity, to feel the protagonist's pain and courage as she navigates a world that both confines and transforms her. This nuanced storytelling sets a powerful foundation for the journey ahead, promising deeper revelations and growth. As we move forward with the narrative, the seeds planted here, of identity, conflict, and transformation, promise a story that is as emotionally rich as it is thought-provoking. This first section invites us to lean in, to listen closely, and to feel deeply the quiet pulse of a tale about self-discovery and the reclaiming of power. There's a shift in the air as the story unfolds further, a palpable change in tone and rhythm that signals the journey entering a deeper, more turbulent phase. The delicate world we've been gently eased into begins to tremble, its fragile seams straining beneath the weight of truths long buried and desires too potent to be contained. Our protagonist, once tentative and searching, now steps with growing purpose into the complexity of her own story, one where power, identity, and transformation collide in unexpected and often painful ways. The tension that has simmered beneath the surface bursts forth in a series of moments that are both intimate and explosive. The protagonist's evolving self-awareness brings with it conflicts that ripple through her relationships, especially with those who represent the world she is trying to escape and redefine. Her stepmother, with her rigid ideals and commanding presence, becomes a focal point of this clash, not merely as an antagonist but as a symbol of the constraining forces that seek to dictate identity and worth. Their confrontations, charged with emotional weight, are less about loud arguments and more about the quiet, shattering moments where expectations and realities collide. At the same time, the bond between the protagonist and her stepsister deepens, evolving into a complicated mixture of rivalry, empathy, and shared vulnerability. Their journey together transcends the traditional roles assigned by fairy tales, revealing the power of sisterhood in navigating pain and change. This relationship becomes a mirror reflecting the themes of otherness and acceptance that pulse through the narrative. The film handles this dynamic with remarkable subtlety, capturing the unspoken tensions and tenderness that coexist in such intimate bonds. The arrival and influence of the prince continue to ripple through the story, but now his character is refracted through the protagonist's growing agency. No longer a distant figure of admiration or desire, he becomes intertwined with her journey of self-definition. Their interactions are marked by moments of recognition and challenge, revealing the shifting power dynamics and the complexities of connection. The narrative uses their relationship to explore themes of equality, transformation, and the dismantling of traditional roles. Major plot twists begin to unravel, reconfiguring the narrative's direction and deepening its thematic explorations. Secrets come to light, about family lineage, hidden histories, and the true nature of beauty and power, that force the protagonist to re-evaluate her understanding of herself and those around her. These revelations are not just shocks for drama's sake, they serve as catalysts for change, compelling characters to confront uncomfortable truths and redefine their paths. The film's skillful pacing ensures that these moments feel earned and profound, inviting reflection rather than mere surprise. One of the most gripping sequences involves a confrontation that challenges the protagonist's resilience and tests the bond she has forged. This scene is charged with emotional intensity, blending elements of physical struggle and psychological negotiation. It serves as a crucible where character and theme crystallize. The fight is not only external but internal, a battle for identity and liberation. The film's direction and cinematography amplify this moment with a careful interplay of light, shadow, and movement, creating an atmosphere thick with tension and possibility. The resolution of these conflicts leads to a climax that is both cathartic and contemplative. The protagonist makes choices that affirm her transformation and assert her agency, moving beyond the limitations imposed by others and by her own doubts. This culmination is portrayed with emotional honesty and complexity, avoiding neat closure in favor of a richer, more ambiguous truth. The story acknowledges the ongoing nature of growth and the interplay of light and shadow in human experience. The final scenes reflect a profound shift, not just in the protagonist's circumstances but in her self-perception and relationships. The film uses visual motifs, mirrors, open windows, changing light, to symbolize this evolution, offering a sense of emergence and renewal. The narrative leaves space for hope tempered by realism, suggesting that while transformation is possible, it is rarely simple or complete. Throughout this unfolding, the film continues to weave its themes of beauty, otherness, power, and acceptance into the fabric of the story. The protagonist's journey becomes a meditation on the ways society shapes identity and the courage required to reclaim it. The narrative interrogates the politics of appearance and the deep human need to be seen and valued for one's authentic self. The antagonist figures, whether the stepmother, social rivals, or even aspects of the prince's world, are portrayed with nuance, reflecting the complexities of power and resistance. Their interactions with the protagonist illuminate the film's critique of conformity and the struggles inherent in challenging entrenched hierarchies. These dynamics enrich the story, offering multiple perspectives on the costs and possibilities of change. Visually, the film's second half continues to use lighting and composition to reflect emotional and thematic shifts. Scenes that once felt confined open into broader spaces, while moments of darkness yield to bursts of color and light. The cinematography captures this progression with an artistry that deepens immersion and resonance. Sound design complements these shifts, using a dynamic interplay of silence, ambient noise, and music to underscore the narrative's emotional beats. The score swells and recedes, weaving motifs that echo the protagonist's inner journey. This auditory landscape enhances the storytelling, making each moment feel both intimate and expansive. Character development remains at the forefront, with the protagonist embracing complexity rather than simplicity. Her flaws, strengths, fears, and desires are laid bare, making her journey relatable and compelling. The film resists idealizing her transformation, instead portraying growth as a process marked by setbacks and revelations. Supporting characters also evolve, their arcs intertwining with the protagonists in ways that deepen the narrative texture. Allies reveal unexpected depths, while antagonists' vulnerabilities emerge, blurring lines between friend and foe. This rich character tapestry enhances the story's emotional impact and thematic richness. The film's conclusion invites viewers to reflect on the nature of identity, belonging, and change. It suggests that transformation is ongoing and multifaceted, shaped by internal resolve and external forces. The ending's ambiguity encourages continued contemplation, leaving space for personal interpretation and resonance. In sum, the unfolding of the second half of the story is a journey into the heart of complexity, of self, relationships, and society. It challenges conventions and invites empathy, offering a narrative that is both intellectually stimulating and emotionally profound. The film's skillful blending of plot, character, and theme creates an experience that lingers, inviting us to reconsider what it means to be seen, valued, and free. Within the rich and textured world of this film, the characters emerge not as mere archetypes or simple vessels for plot progression, but as deeply human and multifaceted beings, each carrying their own scars, desires, contradictions, and strengths. The narrative breathes through them, their journeys unfolding like intricate tapestries woven from threads of vulnerability, resilience, and transformation. Their interactions pulse with emotional nuance, inviting us not only to observe but to feel, to understand the quiet battles fought behind guarded eyes and tentative smiles. In examining these characters closely, we come to see the film's true heart, a study in identity, otherness, and the quest for belonging. At the center stands the protagonist, the so-called ugly stepsister, whose story reframes a familiar fairy tale through the lens of empathy and complexity. She is no villainess, nor merely a foil to someone else's beauty. Instead, she is a fully realized individual grappling with the weight of imposed narratives and her own evolving sense of self. From the earliest moments, she conveys a quiet strength that belies her outward awkwardness and societal marginalization. There is a vulnerability in her that draws us in, a longing to be seen, to be loved, to claim a place beyond the shadows cast by family and society. Her physical appearance, so often the source of ridicule and exclusion, is not simply a superficial trait but a symbol of the broader theme of otherness that permeates the film. Yet the character transcends this, challenging the audience to move beyond looks and perceive the depths beneath. Her intelligence, emotional acuity, and resilience shine through in moments of quiet reflection and brave assertion. The film invites us to witness her gradual journey toward self-acceptance, a transformation that is as internal and psychological as it is external. The protagonist's inner life is richly portrayed, filled with contradictions and complexities. She oscillates between moments of doubt and fierce determination, tenderness and guardedness, longing and defiance. This emotional landscape is revealed not only through dialogue but through subtle gestures, fleeting expressions, and the spaces between words. The actress's performance captures these nuances with a delicate precision, creating a character who feels painfully real and profoundly relatable. Her relationship with her stepmother is charged with tension and ambivalence. The stepmother, embodying societal expectations of beauty and propriety, wields control with a mixture of authority and cruelty. Yet she is not a one-dimensional antagonist. The film hints at her own fears, disappointments, and motivations, painting a portrait of a woman trapped by convention and desperation. Their interactions are a battlefield of power, rejection, and rare moments of understanding, a dynamic that reflects larger themes of conformity, rebellion, and the cost of imposed identities. The stepsister's connection with her biological sister is equally layered. Their relationship is a complicated dance of rivalry, jealousy, affection, and shared history. Neither is painted as purely good or bad. Instead, their interactions reveal the messy reality of sibling bonds shaped by love and competition. The film gives space to moments of vulnerability and tentative connection between them, highlighting how family ties can both wound and heal. The prince is a fascinating figure, more than a romantic ideal or plot device. His character serves as a mirror and catalyst, reflecting the protagonist's desires and fears while challenging traditional notions of heroism and love. His presence disrupts established dynamics and invites exploration of themes like equality, transformation, and acceptance. The film treats him with complexity, giving him vulnerabilities and flaws that make him a fully human counterpart rather than an unattainable figure. Supporting characters enrich the narrative fabric, each embodying different facets of the film's thematic concerns. Friends and confidants offer moments of support and insight, helping the protagonist navigate her journey. At the same time, rivals and antagonists introduce conflict and challenge, pushing the narrative forward and deepening the emotional stakes. These characters are portrayed with care, avoiding stereotypes and contributing to the story's psychological realism. The film excels at portraying how identity is negotiated in relation to others. Character self-perceptions and actions are shaped by social interactions, expectations, and internalized narratives. The protagonist's struggle to define herself beyond the roles imposed by family and society is mirrored in the journeys of others, creating a complex web of interrelated quests for belonging and selfhood. Themes of beauty and worth are explored through character dynamics rather than didactic statements. The film probes how societal ideals shape behavior and self-image, and how individuals resist or succumb to these pressures. The protagonist's evolution challenges viewers to reconsider conventional beauty standards and the power structures that enforce them. Psychological depth is achieved through a blend of narrative, performance, and cinematic technique. The film uses silence, glances, and physicality to reveal emotions that dialogue alone cannot express. Characters' internal conflicts are made visible through their interactions with space, light, and other characters, creating a rich emotional tapestry. The film also explores the intersection of personal and social identity. Characters are caught between private desires and public roles, negotiating their place within family, community, and broader cultural narratives. These tensions generate much of the story's emotional drama and thematic richness. The protagonist's journey is marked by moments of both isolation and connection. Her struggles highlight the pain of exclusion but also the possibility of finding kinship and understanding. These relational dynamics are portrayed with sensitivity, avoiding clichés and emphasizing complexity. The film's portrayal of power is nuanced and multifaceted. Authority is exercised through appearance, speech, and social standing, but also through vulnerability and emotional intelligence. Characters wield power in overt and subtle ways, and the story interrogates how power is maintained, challenged, and transformed. Conflict arises not only between characters but within them. Internal struggles over identity, loyalty, and self-worth provide much of the narrative's emotional tension. The protagonist's reflections and decisions reveal the difficulty of change and the courage required to embrace it. The film resists neat resolutions for its characters, opting instead for endings that reflect ongoing processes of growth and self-discovery. This realism enhances the story's emotional impact, inviting viewers to engage with the characters beyond the screen. Symbolism and metaphor are woven through character portrayals. Physical appearances, gestures, and settings all contribute to a layered understanding of identity and transformation. These elements enrich the narrative, adding depth and nuance. The ensemble cast's chemistry contributes to the film's authenticity. Their interactions feel lived-in and spontaneous, reflecting the complexities of real relationships. This naturalism enhances the story's emotional resonance. Costuming and makeup support character development subtly, signaling shifts in self-perception and social positioning. Changes in appearance mirror internal changes, reinforcing thematic concerns. The film's attention to detail extends to mannerisms, speech patterns, and interpersonal dynamics, creating fully realized characters whose actions feel motivated and credible. Characters' moral ambiguities challenge viewers to consider the complexities of human behavior. Choices are seldom black and white, reflecting the film's commitment to psychological realism. The protagonist's growth involves reclaiming narratives and rejecting imposed limitations, a journey that resonates universally. Her arc embodies themes of empowerment and self-definition. Supporting characters' stories intersect with the protagonists in ways that highlight themes of solidarity, betrayal, and resilience. These interactions deepen the narrative texture. The film's nuanced portrayal of femininity and power contributes to broader cultural conversations, offering a fresh perspective on familiar archetypes. In sum, the characters are the film's emotional core, their journeys embodying its thematic explorations with subtlety and depth. Through their struggles and transformations, the story invites us to reflect on identity, otherness, and the enduring human desire to be seen and accepted. There's a kind of magic that happens behind the scenes of any film, a blend of serendipity, ingenuity, and sometimes downright oddity, that shapes the final piece in ways audiences rarely see or imagine. This film, with its rich layers and subtle storytelling, has its share of fascinating tales from the production floor that reveal the human side of filmmaking, the challenges, the quirks, the unexpected moments that became part of the film's DNA. As we delve into these strangest facts, we uncover how creativity often thrives in chaos, how small accidents can become narrative gold, and how a dedicated team brings a story to life through passion and perseverance. One of the most remarkable behind-the-scenes stories involves the casting process, which was anything but ordinary. The filmmakers wanted actors who could convey deep emotional complexity with minimal dialogue, relying heavily on facial expressions, body language, and subtle gestures. To achieve this, auditions sometimes took the form of improvisational workshops, where actors were asked to respond silently to imagined scenarios or to convey feelings without words. This experimental approach was challenging but crucial, pushing performers out of their comfort zones and resulting in the nuanced portrayals that define the film's tone. Interestingly, several cast members recalled these sessions as some of the most intense and revealing moments of their careers. Another curious fact is that the film was shot almost entirely on location, in a small town that had never before hosted a major production. The crew's arrival transformed the quiet community into a bustling hub, but it also introduced logistical hurdles. The town's narrow streets and old buildings required careful planning to accommodate equipment and filming schedules. One particularly unusual challenge was the need to control ambient sounds, everything from passing tractors to barking dogs, to maintain the film's delicate soundscape. Locals became inadvertent participants, sometimes unintentionally walking into shots or offering unsolicited advice. These interactions added a layer of authenticity and warmth but also required flexibility and humor from the production team. Weather played a surprisingly pivotal role in shaping the film's atmosphere. The production schedule coincided with an unusually wet season, leading to frequent rainstorms and unpredictable conditions. On several occasions, scenes had to be rewritten or rescheduled at the last minute. However, the director and cinematographer embraced these challenges, using rain and mist to enhance the film's moody, dreamlike quality. One iconic scene featuring a sudden downpour was originally meant to be shot on a clear day, but the spontaneous change gave it an emotional intensity that became unforgettable. Crew members often joked that the weather was like a silent collaborator, shaping the story in unexpected ways. Perhaps one of the most unusual occurrences involved a prop that refused to behave as planned. A key item in the film, a delicate, antique mirror, was used repeatedly in scenes symbolizing reflection and transformation. However, the mirror's reflective surface caused constant technical headaches, creating unwanted glare and reflections of crew and equipment. The prop team experimented with various coatings and angles to minimize interference, but the mirror seemed to have a mind of its own. In a strange twist, some actors reported feeling unsettled or distracted while handling it, leading to rumors on set that the mirror was haunted. Though purely superstition, this story added to the mirror's mystique and the film's atmosphere. The director's dual role as both filmmaker and lead actor added an unusual dynamic to the set. Balancing these responsibilities demanded intense focus and careful planning. Scenes were often rehearsed multiple times without cameras to allow the director to observe and guide performances before stepping in front of the lens. This method fostered a collaborative environment where actors felt supported yet challenged. The director's immersion in character informed his choices behind the camera, resulting in a seamless integration of vision and performance. Several crew members noted that his presence on both sides of the camera created a unique energy, blending personal vulnerability with artistic control. Sound design emerged as a particularly fascinating aspect of the film's creation. The sound team took an experimental approach, recording ambient noises from the natural environment and manipulating them to create an immersive auditory experience. For example, subtle bird calls, wind through leaves, and distant water sounds were layered to evoke mood and place without overwhelming dialogue or music. In some cases, everyday sounds were slowed down or distorted to produce eerie or surreal effects. The sound designers referred to this as sonic painting, crafting textures that enhanced emotional undercurrents and psychological tension. The film's score also carries intriguing backstories. The composer incorporated unconventional instruments and techniques to reflect the protagonist's inner turmoil and the story's blend of reality and fantasy. For instance, a rare string instrument was used to produce haunting tones that became a leitmotif throughout the film. Recording sessions took place in an old cathedral known for its exceptional acoustics, adding natural reverberation that enriched the music's depth. The composer and director worked closely, exchanging ideas and experimenting with themes until the score perfectly complemented the narrative's emotional arc. One little-known detail is that the script underwent significant changes during shooting, influenced by both practical considerations and creative discoveries. Certain scenes were rewritten on set to better capture the actors' chemistry or to accommodate unexpected limitations, such as weather or location constraints. These improvisations often led to more authentic and compelling moments, illustrating the fluid nature of filmmaking. The flexibility of the cast and crew in embracing these changes was crucial to the film's success, demonstrating a shared commitment to storytelling over rigid adherence to the initial script. Another fascinating tidbit involves the use of color and costume to signal character development subtly. The costume designer employed a palette that shifted gradually with the protagonist's journey, from muted, restrained hues reflecting her initial marginalization, to richer, more vibrant tones as she grows in confidence and self-awareness. These choices were so finely tuned that even slight changes in wardrobe communicated shifts in mood and identity. The film's visual language extends beyond scenery and framing, using color as a narrative device that deepens thematic resonance. On a lighter note, several members of the crew shared amusing stories of on-set mishaps that, while stressful at the time, became cherished memories. From unexpected animal appearances during quiet scenes, such as a curious goat wandering into frame, to accidental costume malfunctions that had to be creatively concealed, these moments brought levity to an otherwise intense production. Such anecdotes remind us that filmmaking is not just an art but a human endeavor filled with spontaneity and humor. The film's marketing campaign also contained some interesting choices. Rather than emphasizing spectacle or star power, promotional materials focused on the story's emotional depth and thematic complexity. Trailers and posters highlighted intimate moments and symbolic imagery, appealing to an audience seeking thoughtful, layered narratives. This strategy was somewhat unconventional for the genre but proved effective in attracting viewers interested in cinema as a form of art and reflection. In the years following the film's release, cast and crew have shared further behind-the-scenes insights in interviews and special features. These reflections reveal the collective pride in the film's craftsmanship and the deep connections formed during production. Many have spoken about how the project challenged them artistically and personally, pushing boundaries and fostering growth. These stories add richness to our understanding, showing how the film is a product of not just vision but of human relationships and shared dedication. Exploring these strange and fascinating facts offers a new lens through which to appreciate the film. It reminds us that every cinematic work is the sum of countless decisions, accidents, and collaborations, moments of struggle and joy that rarely make it to the final cut but shape the spirit of the story. These tales of the film's making deepen our connection to the narrative and its creators, transforming viewing into a more engaged and informed experience. Ultimately, the behind-the-scenes stories reveal a production marked by resilience, creativity, and a willingness to embrace the unpredictable. They celebrate the artistry and humanity behind the camera, honoring the countless hands and hearts that bring a story from imagination to screen. And in knowing these facts, we gain not only insight but also a sense of kinship with the film's journey, a journey as compelling and layered as the story it tells. There's a rhythm to the unfolding of a story, a pulse beneath each scene, each interaction, that carries not only the narrative forward but also the deeper meanings that make a film resonate long after the credits roll. The events in this film are carefully constructed not merely as plot devices but as rich, layered moments that invite critical reflection. These significant events serve as gateways into the film's emotional core and thematic complexity, shaping the audience's experience and contributing profoundly to its cultural impact and reception. The opening sequence, deceptively quiet and understated, lays the groundwork for the film's central tensions. From a critical standpoint, it functions as more than mere exposition. It establishes a tone of fragile equilibrium that is soon to be disrupted. The subtle interplay of light and shadow in these early scenes visually echoes the protagonist's internal conflict, the coexistence of hope and doubt, strength and vulnerability. The deliberate pacing invites viewers to immerse themselves fully, setting a contemplative mood that resists the rapid beats of conventional storytelling. Early events that introduce the household dynamics and social milieu reveal the film's commitment to psychological realism. The protagonist's interactions with her stepmother and stepsister are fraught with power dynamics that reflect broader societal structures. Critically, these scenes examine how authority and identity are negotiated within intimate spaces, highlighting themes of conformity and rebellion. The film's nuanced portrayal challenges simplistic binaries of good and evil, instead presenting characters shaped by complex motivations and constraints. The arrival of the prince introduces a catalytic figure whose presence unsettles established hierarchies. Rather than embodying an idealized savior, he is portrayed with ambivalence, his charm tempered by flaws and uncertainties. This characterization invites critical inquiry into traditional fairy tale roles and the subversion thereof. His interactions with the protagonist complicate narratives of romance and power, suggesting a move toward more egalitarian and psychologically intricate relationships. The prince's role as both observer and participant enriches the film's exploration of identity and transformation. A pivotal event, the revelation of family secrets, functions on multiple levels. Narratively, it serves as a turning point that propels the protagonist toward self-discovery and action. From a critical perspective, this moment symbolizes the dismantling of illusions and the confrontation with hidden truths that shape identity. The film uses this revelation to interrogate the nature of beauty and worth, challenging societal norms and inviting audiences to reconsider entrenched prejudices. The layering of metaphor and plot in this scene exemplifies the film's sophisticated storytelling. The use of magical realism throughout key events serves not only aesthetic purposes but also deepens thematic resonance. The ethereal manifestations of the protagonist's inner world, fleeting visions, symbolic objects, transformative moments, invite multiple interpretations. Critics have noted how these elements blur boundaries between reality and imagination, reflecting the fluidity of identity and the power of narrative to shape self-understanding. The film's subtle integration of these motifs enriches its emotional texture and intellectual appeal. The bar confrontation scene is particularly rich for critical analysis. This moment crystallizes social and psychological tensions, staging a microcosm of power struggles that echo larger societal dynamics. The choreography of movement, the framing of characters, and the interplay of dialogue and silence create a tableau that invites viewers to scrutinize the mechanisms of dominance and resistance. The scene's resonance lies in its refusal to offer clear resolutions, instead exposing the ambiguities of human behavior and the cost of conflict. The protagonist's preparations to assert herself, training, strategic planning, emotional gathering, illustrate themes of agency and empowerment. Critically, these sequences reveal the interplay between vulnerability and strength, highlighting the psychological complexities of survival and self-definition. The film portrays these moments with realism and respect, avoiding glorification while acknowledging the courage required to challenge oppressive structures. This portrayal aligns with feminist and postmodern critiques of traditional narratives. The evolving relationship between the protagonist and her stepsister offers a nuanced exploration of sisterhood and solidarity amid rivalry. Their interactions embody themes of negotiation, empathy, and the contested nature of identity within familial and social contexts. Critics have praised the film's refusal to simplify this dynamic, instead presenting it as a site of both conflict and possibility. This complexity enhances the narrative's emotional depth and thematic sophistication. Major plot twists challenge audience expectations and narrative conventions. The film's willingness to subvert traditional fairy tale tropes signals a broader cultural interrogation of myth and identity. These twists provoke reflection on the fluidity of roles and the constructedness of narratives that shape gender and social hierarchies. The careful pacing and integration of these surprises ensure they contribute meaningfully to character development and thematic exploration rather than serving as mere shocks. The climax, a scene of intense confrontation and revelation, exemplifies the film's mastery of suspense and emotional complexity. The layering of visual, auditory, and narrative elements creates a multisensory experience that draws viewers deeply into the characters' struggles. From a critical viewpoint, this moment synthesizes the film's central themes: transformation, empowerment, and the dismantling of false narratives. The protagonist's choices here resonate as acts of self-determination, challenging oppressive forces and asserting new identities. The film's resolution embraces ambiguity and complexity, resisting tidy conclusions. This approach aligns with contemporary critical perspectives that value realism and multiplicity over closure. The ending invites ongoing reflection on the nature of identity, power, and change, suggesting that transformation is a continuous, contested process. This openness enhances the film's emotional resonance and cultural relevance. The film's thematic exploration of beauty, otherness, and selfhood is woven intricately into its narrative fabric. Significant events function as nodes where these themes intersect and unfold. Critics have highlighted how the film challenges normative aesthetics and social norms, advocating for a more inclusive and multifaceted understanding of identity. The protagonist's journey embodies this challenge, making the film a compelling contribution to cultural conversations about difference and belonging. Emotional resonance is heightened by the film's attention to psychological detail and relational dynamics. The portrayal of fear, hope, love, and defiance is nuanced, avoiding cliches to reveal authentic human complexity. These emotional textures deepen viewer engagement, fostering empathy and reflection. Cinematographic choices during key events, such as lighting contrasts, framing, and camera movement, support the film's thematic concerns and emotional tone. The interplay of close-ups and wide shots mirrors the protagonist's internal and external worlds, enhancing the narrative's psychological depth. Sound design, with its strategic use of silence and ambient noise, further amplifies mood and tension. The film's reception reflects appreciation for its layered storytelling and thematic richness. Critics and audiences alike have noted its departure from formulaic fairy tale adaptations, praising its intellectual and emotional complexity. Its impact is evident in discussions about representation, narrative innovation, and the politics of beauty. In analyzing these significant events, it becomes clear that the film's power lies in its integration of narrative, theme, and form. Each moment serves multiple purposes, advancing plot while deepening character and enriching meaning. This multifaceted storytelling invites viewers to engage critically and emotionally. Ultimately, the film stands as a testament to the potential of cinema to challenge conventions and expand understanding. Its events are not merely story beats but invitations to rethink identity, power, and belonging. The film's lasting impact lies in its capacity to provoke thought and stir feeling, making it a vital work in contemporary cultural discourse. Reflecting on the film's critical dimensions and key moments, we recognize a work that is both artistically accomplished and thematically profound. It exemplifies how storytelling can illuminate the complexities of the human condition, inviting ongoing dialogue and interpretation. There's a kind of intimate wonder in peeling back the layers of how a film comes to be, the intricate dance of vision, craft, and sheer human will that transforms a script into something living and breathing on screen. I love sharing these behind-the-scenes tales because they reveal the heart and soul behind the artistry, the moments of challenge and joy, and the serendipities that no script could predict. So, pull up a chair, and let's talk, not as critics distant from the process, but as close friends who appreciate the magic that happens when a dedicated crew and cast come together with a shared passion. The filmmaking process for this story was a journey marked by intention and adaptability. From the very start, the director had a clear vision: to craft a narrative that felt authentic and layered, one that balanced the fairy tale's dreamlike qualities with grounded, emotional realism. But as any filmmaker will tell you, a vision on paper can meet many unexpected turns on set. One of the first major decisions was to shoot largely on location rather than in a studio. The production team scouted tirelessly for a town that could embody the story's dual nature, both enchanting and fraught with tension. They settled on a rural community with a history as textured as the narrative itself. Shooting in a real town brought richness but also a slew of challenges. Narrow streets meant that moving heavy equipment required careful choreography, and the ambient sounds of a living community, passing cars, barking dogs, even church bells, needed to be managed so they didn't seep into scenes where silence or specific soundscapes were essential. I recall the sound team sharing stories of silent hours where the entire neighborhood cooperated, reducing noise to a bare minimum to capture the perfect take. It's moments like these that remind us how filmmaking is a communal effort, involving not just the cast and crew but the surrounding world. Speaking of sound, this film's sound design is one of its unsung heroes. The designers embraced the challenge of creating an auditory atmosphere that supported the film's psychological texture. They recorded natural sounds on location, leaves rustling, distant wildlife, footsteps on gravel, but then layered and manipulated them in post-production to evoke mood and tension subtly. One fascinating anecdote involves a barely audible, almost subliminal heartbeat sound woven into key scenes, mirroring the protagonist's inner turmoil without drawing overt attention. It's a brilliant example of how sound can communicate emotion beneath dialogue and visuals. The director's dual role as filmmaker and lead actor brought a unique intimacy to the set. Balancing the demands of directing with embodying the protagonist required meticulous preparation and a deep trust between the director and the crew. They developed a system where scenes were first rehearsed and shot without the director in front of the camera, allowing him to review takes and give feedback. Then, once confident in the setup, he would step into the role. This approach fostered a collaborative atmosphere, where actors felt supported and creative risks were encouraged. The director's immersion in character also infused scenes with an authenticity born from lived experience, which crew members often remarked upon. The casting process itself was an adventure. Because the film relied heavily on conveying emotion through subtlety rather than grand speeches, auditions focused on non-verbal expression and improvisation. Actors were asked to respond to imagined situations without dialogue, using body language and facial cues to reveal character. Several cast members described these auditions as both challenging and liberating, pushing them to tap into new aspects of their craft. This emphasis on authenticity shines through in the performances, lending the film its emotional depth. Practical effects played a central role in grounding the story's visual reality. In an era dominated by CGI, this film's choice to rely on tangible props, makeup, and set pieces added texture and immediacy. For example, the family home was constructed with painstaking detail. Every piece of furniture, every photograph, every worn surface was chosen to reflect character backstory and thematic resonance. One memorable story involves a seemingly mundane object, a cracked porcelain figurine, that became a recurring visual motif symbolizing fragility and transformation. The prop master shared how the figurine's imperfections made it feel alive, contributing to the film's symbolic language. Weather, too, became an unplanned yet integral collaborator. The shooting schedule coincided with an unusually wet season, resulting in frequent rain and overcast skies. Rather than seeing this as a setback, the director and cinematographer embraced the moodiness it lent the visuals. One iconic scene, originally scripted for a sunlit day, was shot amidst a sudden storm, with rain cascading around the actors. The resulting footage is haunting and visceral, capturing emotional turbulence that words alone couldn't express. Crew members joked that the weather was on our side, shaping the film's aesthetic in ways no lighting rig could replicate. Night shoots brought their own set of challenges and rewards. Filming suspenseful scenes under low light demanded not only technical precision but also heightened emotional commitment from the actors, who had to sustain intensity amid fatigue and the physical cold. The use of practical light sources, candles, lanterns, moonlight, added to the authenticity but required careful calibration to balance visibility with mood. Actors described the experience as immersive and at times surreal, their performances deepening as they responded to the environment's sensory cues. Editing was a process of sculpting time and emotion. The editor worked closely with the director to find the rhythm that allowed tension to build organically without rushing or lingering excessively. Longer takes gave space for characters' emotions to unfold, while tighter cuts accelerated moments of suspense. The collaborative relationship between editing and sound design was especially vital. Silence and ambient noise punctuated the visuals, creating an immersive sensory landscape. One of the editor's favorite anecdotes involved discovering during post-production that a subtle sigh captured on set perfectly underscored a character's emotional turning point, proving that sometimes the smallest moments carry the greatest weight. The film's music score is a quiet but powerful presence. The composer employed unconventional instruments and sound textures to reflect the protagonist's emotional journey. Recording sessions took place in acoustically rich environments, including an old cathedral that lent natural reverberation to the music. Themes emerged gradually, woven subtly into the narrative rather than dominating it. The composer spoke of striving to create a soundscape of the soul, using music to mirror internal conflict and hope. This restraint aligns beautifully with the film's overall aesthetic of subtlety and depth. On set, camaraderie among the cast and crew helped sustain energy and morale during demanding shoots. The emotional intensity of the story meant that moments of levity and support were essential. Actors often shared stories of late-night conversations and inside jokes that helped them navigate the film's heavier themes. Workshops and group discussions about character motivation deepened everyone's investment, creating a sense of shared purpose. This community spirit shines through in the film's authentic portrayals of relationships. Several moments of on-set improvisation enriched the final product. In one scene, an actor's spontaneous gesture added layers of meaning to a conversation, leading the director to adjust the script to incorporate it. These instances of creative fluidity highlight the collaborative nature of filmmaking, where the script is a living document shaped by many voices. The willingness to adapt and experiment allowed the film to evolve organically. Marketing the film involved embracing its unique qualities rather than conforming to genre expectations. Promotional materials focused on emotional depth, character complexity, and thematic richness rather than action or spectacle. Trailers and posters used evocative imagery and subtle hints rather than overt plot points, appealing to audiences seeking thoughtful, layered narratives. This strategy distinguished the film in a crowded market and helped build a dedicated, engaged audience. Years after release, the film's production stories continue to inspire. Cast and crew interviews reveal enduring pride and affection for the project, reflecting on how it challenged and transformed them. Behind-the-scenes footage and commentaries offer fans deeper insight, enriching appreciation and understanding. These reflections underscore the film's legacy as a labor of love and artistic collaboration. Exploring these production insights reveals the complexity and humanity behind the film's creation. It's a reminder that every frame embodies countless hours of effort, creativity, and passion. The quirks, challenges, and triumphs all contribute to the film's unique spirit, a testament to the power of collaborative storytelling. Knowing these stories enhances our viewing experience, connecting us more deeply to the film and its makers. It invites us to celebrate not only the finished work but the journey of its making, a journey marked by resilience, creativity, and shared vision. In the end, these fun facts and behind-the-scenes tales enrich our understanding and appreciation, reminding us that filmmaking is a human endeavor filled with surprises, dedication, and moments of unexpected magic. It's this blend of artistry and humanity that gives the film its lasting power and emotional resonance. There's something profoundly evocative about the spaces a story chooses to inhabit, how setting doesn't just frame the narrative but actively shapes its emotional and thematic textures. When we settle into this film's world, we're invited to experience not just the characters' journeys but the very atmosphere that cradles those journeys, a space where every shadow, every flicker of light, and every architectural detail tells its own story. As someone who has spent years teaching and discussing film, I find that understanding these cinematic elements, the settings, locations, and visual language, opens a doorway to deeper appreciation. It's like learning to hear the unspoken language of cinema, where silence and space speak as loudly as dialogue. The film setting is, in many ways, a character itself, a living, breathing entity that shapes and reflects the inner lives of those who inhabit it. From the moment we are introduced to the world of the protagonist, the carefully chosen locations speak volumes. This isn't a sanitized fairy tale kingdom but a place imbued with texture and tension. The town, with its narrow, winding streets and weathered buildings, feels both timeless and burdened by history. There's a palpable sense of enclosure, of secrets lurking just beneath the surface. This environment mirrors the protagonist's own experience, constrained by expectations, yet brimming with untold potential. Shooting on location rather than relying on studio sets was a deliberate choice that enriches the film's authenticity. The production team's extensive scouting found a community whose architecture and landscape naturally embodied the film's emotional palette. The aging stone facades, the peeling paint on wooden doors, the overgrown gardens, all these details ground the story in reality while enhancing its fairy tale undertones. As we walk alongside the characters through these spaces, we feel their weight and history, as if the walls themselves hold memories and whispered conversations. One of the most striking aspects of the setting is how it balances familiarity with unease. On the surface, there's a quaintness, small shops, cozy homes, soft lamplight, that invites comfort. But this is always tinged with something darker, shadows that linger too long, empty streets at twilight, windows that reveal just a flicker of movement. This duality is essential. It keeps the viewer alert, sensing that beauty and danger coexist. The film uses this tension masterfully, allowing setting to become a mirror of the characters' emotional states and the story's themes of transformation and otherness. The family home, the protagonist's primary refuge and battleground, is depicted with extraordinary care. Its worn surfaces and carefully curated interiors tell stories of both nurture and constraint. The set design incorporates objects that speak silently, an old family portrait with faded smiles, a cracked mirror, well-worn books stacked haphazardly. These details invite us to read the space as a text, understanding how environment shapes identity and memory. Cinematically, the home is often framed to emphasize both safety and imprisonment, with doorways and windows serving as symbolic thresholds between freedom and confinement. Lighting plays a pivotal role in articulating mood and tone throughout the film. The cinematographer favors natural light wherever possible, capturing the soft glow of dawn and the fading warmth of dusk to evoke moments of hope and melancholy. These golden hours imbue scenes with a fragile beauty, underscoring the film's themes of transition and impermanence. In contrast, interiors frequently use low-key lighting, candlelight flickering against shadowed walls, moonlight filtering through lace curtains, creating pockets of intimacy and mystery. This interplay of light and shadow becomes a visual metaphor for the protagonist's internal oscillations between clarity and confusion, strength and vulnerability. Shadow and darkness are not mere absence but active elements in the film's visual storytelling. Scenes where characters are partially obscured or framed by looming silhouettes convey the ever-present threats and hidden desires that propel the narrative. The way shadows fall across faces or creep along walls suggests the complexity of identity and the secrets characters carry. The film's use of chiaroscuro, strong contrasts between light and dark, adds a painterly quality, inviting viewers to look closely and consider what lies beneath the surface. Color grading is subtle but impactful. The palette leans toward muted, earthy tones, soft browns, dusky greens, warm grays, that reinforce the grounded, somber atmosphere. Occasionally, bursts of richer color, a deep red scarf, a golden leaf, the blush of sunset, punctuate the narrative, signaling emotional shifts or moments of revelation. This restrained use of color enhances the film's psychological realism while maintaining a dreamlike quality that connects to its fairy tale roots. Camera work further amplifies the film's immersive quality. The cinematography combines steady, composed shots that allow scenes to breathe with handheld sequences that bring immediacy and intimacy. During moments of tension or emotional turmoil, the camera often moves closer, capturing subtle expressions and unspoken communication. Conversely, wide shots frame characters within their environments, emphasizing isolation or connection. This dynamic use of framing and movement guides viewers' emotional engagement, shaping how we experience the story's ebb and flow. Framing is employed thoughtfully to underscore thematic concerns. Characters are often placed within architectural elements, doorways, windows, archways, that serve as visual metaphors for thresholds and transitions. The composition frequently uses negative space to highlight loneliness or vulnerability, with empty areas of the frame inviting contemplation. These choices reflect the protagonist's psychological journey, using spatial relationships to deepen narrative meaning. The use of negative space also functions to create suspense and emotional weight. Scenes where characters are dwarfed by vast, empty landscapes or encased within claustrophobic interiors convey feelings of insignificance or entrapment. This visual language resonates with the film's exploration of identity and belonging, inviting viewers to inhabit the protagonist's perspective fully. Sound design works in tandem with the visual elements to create a rich sensory experience. Ambient sounds recorded on location, rustling leaves, distant footsteps, soft murmurs, are layered and manipulated to enhance atmosphere without overpowering the narrative. Silence is used strategically, creating tension and focusing attention on emotional beats. The interplay of sound and silence deepens immersion, making the world feel alive and responsive. The rural setting's natural sounds and quietness contrast with the internal chaos of characters, creating a poignant tension. The absence of modern noise, traffic, technology, strips the environment to essentials, heightening the focus on human relationships and primal fears. This choice grounds the story in a timeless space, reinforcing its fairy tale qualities. Weather and natural elements are integral to the film's symbolism and atmosphere. Shifting skies, sudden storms, and changing seasons mark emotional and narrative transitions. Rainstorms disrupt moments of calm, mirroring internal upheaval, while clear skies offer fleeting hope. The natural world is portrayed as indifferent yet intertwined with human experience, nurturing and threatening. This interplay adds layers to the film's thematic complexity. Visual motifs recur throughout, weaving thematic threads into the cinematic fabric. Fields and gardens symbolize cycles of growth and decay, echoing characters' transformations. Mirrors and reflections suggest self-examination and duality. Shadows and silhouettes evoke mystery and fear. These motifs create a visual poetry that enriches the narrative, encouraging viewers to engage with symbolism alongside story. The film's pacing and editing support its atmospheric ambitions. Long takes allow emotional moments to unfold organically, while carefully timed cuts build suspense and release. This rhythm mirrors the protagonist's psychological states, inviting contemplation and empathy. The editing style avoids rapid cuts or flashy techniques, favoring a measured flow that respects viewer engagement. Costume and makeup contribute subtly to character and mood. Wardrobe choices emphasize practicality and subdued tones, aligning characters visually with their environment and emotional journeys. Makeup reflects emotional and physical states, supporting storytelling without distraction. These details enhance realism and thematic coherence. Props and set dressing carry narrative weight. Objects within the home and community, books, photographs, personal items, offer silent insights into character histories and relationships. This attention to detail invites viewers to discover layers of meaning through observation, enriching world-building. Lighting techniques create focus and contrast. Spotlights highlight key emotional moments, while shadows conceal and reveal, creating mystery. The interplay of natural and artificial light produces textures that evoke mood and theme, integral to sensory impact. Sound and visual elements converge in a cohesive sensory landscape. Silence punctuated by subtle sounds heightens emotional engagement, while visual cues correspond with auditory signals, creating a unified narrative flow that immerses viewers. In exploring setting and cinematic elements, it becomes clear that the film's world is crafted with meticulous care and intention. Every detail, from landscape to lighting, sound to composition, serves to deepen emotional resonance and thematic richness. Ultimately, the settings transcend mere backdrop to become active participants in the story. Cinematic techniques combine to create an atmosphere that is haunting, intimate, and evocative, a space where viewers are invited to feel the protagonist's fears, hopes, and transformations. This sensory immersion elevates the film beyond storytelling, transforming it into an experience that lingers in mind and heart. It exemplifies how cinema's visual language can illuminate the complexities of identity, fear, and hope, inviting us into worlds that reflect and challenge our own. Reflecting on these elements enriches our understanding and appreciation, revealing the artistry behind emotional power. It reminds us that in cinema, spaces and light speak as profoundly as words or plot, creating meaning that resonates deeply and personally. There's an intimacy to behind-the-scenes stories, isn't there? Like a whispered conversation between close friends, revealing the quirks, the laughter, the sweat, and sometimes even tears that come together to make a film more than just images on a screen. It's a side of filmmaking that reminds us how human and collaborative the process truly is, how every challenge encountered becomes a story in itself, and how the cast and crew, those hundreds of unseen hands, shape the soul of a movie. Let me take you through some of the most memorable moments from this particular film set, where dedication met serendipity, where moments of levity balanced intense emotion, and where obstacles became opportunities. Reflecting on these behind-the-scenes insights, what stands out is the tapestry of human effort, creativity, and resilience that brings a film to life. Each challenge met with humor or ingenuity, each quiet moment of connection, contributes to the finished work's richness and vitality. As a viewer, knowing these stories deepens our appreciation, reminding us that cinema is a collective dream shaped by many hearts and minds. So next time you watch the film, remember these tales of the set: the stray dog who became a mascot, the dance-offs that built sisterly chemistry, the weather that painted the mood, and the countless acts of care that shaped every frame. These stories invite us to see the film not just as a story on screen but as a living creation born of human connection and passion. And isn't that, after all, the most beautiful magic of cinema? There's something uniquely enchanting about a film that doesn't just tell a story but invites you to wander through its layers, to lose yourself in its echoes and whispers, its shadows and light. When we speak of themes and symbolism, we're really opening a doorway into the soul of the work, the subtle conversations between images and ideas, the hidden currents beneath the surface narrative. This film, rich in emotional nuance and narrative complexity, offers a fertile ground for such exploration. So let's take a slow, reflective walk through the themes that pulse at its core and the symbols that give those themes vivid, resonant shape. At the heart of this film lies the theme of identity, its construction, its constraints, and its transformation. The protagonist's journey is, in many ways, a quest to reclaim and redefine herself beyond the labels imposed by family, society, and even fairy tale tradition. She is the so-called ugly stepsister, a role traditionally laden with negativity, exclusion, and marginalization. But here, that identity becomes a starting point for profound self-exploration rather than a fixed destiny. The film invites us to consider how identities are not static but fluid, shaped by internal desires and external forces alike. This theme is intertwined with questions of otherness and belonging. The protagonist's marginalization within her family and community mirrors broader social dynamics where difference often leads to exclusion or misunderstanding. The film portrays this not through heavy-handed moralizing but through lived experience, through moments of isolation, subtle rejection, and tentative connection. The tension between longing for acceptance and asserting individuality creates emotional complexity that resonates universally. It speaks to anyone who has ever felt othered, making the story deeply relatable. Closely linked is the theme of beauty and its social construction. The film challenges conventional notions of beauty as purely physical or superficial, instead revealing how beauty is entwined with power, perception, and identity. The stepsister's outward appearance, which society deems undesirable, is juxtaposed with her inner strength, intelligence, and emotional depth. This contrast critiques cultural standards that equate worth with appearance, urging viewers to reconsider what it means to be truly beautiful. The narrative also explores how characters internalize or resist these norms, reflecting the complex interplay between self-image and societal expectation. Transformation is another central motif, not only in the protagonist's personal growth but in the story's broader symbolic landscape. This theme is woven through plot developments and visual storytelling, suggesting that change is both inevitable and fraught with tension. The film presents transformation as a process rather than a fixed outcome, marked by struggle, revelation, and renewal. This nuanced portrayal aligns with contemporary understandings of identity as evolving, challenging simplistic before and after narratives common in fairy tales. Power dynamics permeate the narrative, especially within family and social relationships. The stepmother's authority, the stepsister's rivalries, and the community's judgments all illustrate how power operates through control, exclusion, and narrative shaping. The film critiques these dynamics without reducing characters to villains or victims, instead revealing the complexities of complicity, resistance, and survival. The protagonist's navigation of these power structures highlights themes of agency and liberation, underscoring the courage required to challenge entrenched systems. Symbolism in the film enriches and amplifies these themes, creating a visual and emotional language that deepens viewer engagement. One of the most prominent symbols is the mirror, which appears repeatedly in key scenes. The mirror functions as a site of self-examination and confrontation, reflecting not only physical appearance but also identity's fractured and multifaceted nature. It symbolizes the protagonist's struggle to see herself beyond imposed narratives and to reconcile disparate aspects of her being. The mirror's cracked or distorted reflections further suggest the complexities and imperfections inherent in self-understanding. Another powerful symbol is the garden, a space of growth, decay, and transformation. The garden scenes are layered with meaning, representing the cycles of life and the potential for renewal amidst hardship. The protagonist's interactions with the garden mirror her emotional journey, from confinement to liberation. The presence of wilting flowers alongside budding blooms visualizes the tension between despair and hope, reinforcing the film's meditation on change. Light and shadow operate symbolically throughout the film, underscoring themes of revelation and concealment. Scenes bathed in soft, diffused light often accompany moments of insight, connection, or vulnerability, while shadows envelop characters during periods of doubt, fear, or secrecy. This chiaroscuro effect creates a visual metaphor for the protagonist's internal oscillations and the broader narrative's tension between clarity and ambiguity. The interplay of illumination and darkness invites viewers to look beyond surface appearances and explore hidden depths. Color symbolism also plays a subtle but significant role. The protagonist's wardrobe and surroundings evolve in hue, moving from muted, earthy tones to richer, warmer shades as her confidence and self-awareness grow. This chromatic shift reflects internal transformation and serves as a visual cue for the narrative's emotional arc. Occasional flashes of bold color, reds, golds, blues, punctuate key moments, highlighting emotional intensity or thematic significance. Animals and natural elements appear as recurring symbols, often linked to themes of freedom, instinct, and connection to the self. Birds, in particular, symbolize the desire to escape constraints and to transcend imposed limitations. Their appearances in moments of emotional turmoil or revelation emphasize the protagonist's longing for liberation and self-expression. Similarly, water, whether in streams, rain, or reflections, represents fluidity, cleansing, and transformation, reinforcing the narrative's focus on change. The film also uses architectural elements symbolically. Doorways, windows, and staircases function as thresholds, physical and metaphorical, between worlds, states of being, or understandings. Characters moving through these spaces signal transitions in identity or relationship, highlighting moments of decision or revelation. The framing of these elements within shots draws attention to the liminal spaces where transformation occurs. Narrative motifs such as stories within the story deepen thematic resonance. The film references or reimagines fairy tale conventions, not to replicate them but to interrogate and subvert their messages. This metafictional layer invites viewers to consider how narratives shape identity and expectation, and how reclaiming or rewriting these stories can be acts of empowerment. From the very first day of shooting, the energy on set was electric but also tinged with the nervous excitement that comes with embarking on something ambitious. The director, who also played the lead role, had a reputation for creating a warm yet focused atmosphere. He was the kind of leader who welcomed ideas and encouraged collaboration, which instantly put everyone at ease. Cast and crew alike have described the set as a kind of temporary family, tight-knit, supportive, and sometimes hilariously chaotic. One of the early surprises was just how quickly the sense of camaraderie formed, despite the demanding schedule and intense subject matter. A particularly fun story that often gets retold happened during the filming of a scene involving a large outdoor party, an event full of extras, musicians, and elaborate costumes. On the day of shooting, a stray dog wandered onto the set and promptly decided to adopt the production crew as its new family. The dog, affectionately named Buddy, became a beloved mascot, appearing in multiple takes and even featuring briefly in the background of a key scene. Crew members took turns caring for him between shoots, and his antics provided much-needed comic relief. Buddy became such a fixture that the production team officially credited him in the end credits, a small nod to the unpredictable joy animals bring to the creative process. Interaction among cast members was often filled with moments of genuine connection that translated into authentic performances. The two actresses playing the stepsisters, for example, spent hours off-camera exploring their characters' complicated relationship, sometimes improvising scenes or discussing backstories that never made it into the script but deeply informed their portrayals. Their ability to bring nuance and tension to their interactions stemmed from this off-set bonding. One memorable moment involved a spontaneous dance-off during a break, which not only lightened the mood but strengthened their chemistry in ways that audiences can feel on screen. The director's approach to working with a young actress playing the protagonist's emotional core was another highlight. He took a mentoring role, sharing not only acting techniques but also life lessons about resilience and self-belief. This guidance helped the actress navigate scenes of vulnerability and strength with remarkable depth. The two developed a rapport that was both professional and affectionate, often sharing quiet conversations after long shooting days. Crew members noticed how this dynamic fostered a safe environment where the young actress could explore difficult emotions without fear, resulting in performances that feel intimate and authentic. Of course, filmmaking is never without its hurdles. One of the biggest challenges the crew faced was dealing with unpredictable weather. The story demanded a specific atmospheric tone, misty mornings, overcast skies, gentle rain, that the production team felt was essential to the film's mood. But nature had its own agenda. On more than one occasion, Clear skies and bright sun threatened to disrupt carefully planned shots. The crew's solution was a combination of patience, adaptability, and creativity. They would wait out the weather, sometimes for hours, or use portable diffusion panels and artificial lighting to mimic the desired ambience. This persistence paid off, lending the film a visual consistency that belies the chaotic conditions of shooting. One unforgettable example involved an outdoor scene meant to be shot in soft, early morning fog. On the scheduled day, the fog never appeared. The crew improvised by using smoke machines and adjusting lighting to simulate the effect. The result was so convincing that viewers never suspect the scene's manufactured nature. This story has become emblematic of the crew's dedication, always finding ways to make the director's vision come alive, no matter the obstacles. Equipment failures also tested the team's resolve. Midway through shooting a complex tracking shot, a key camera rig malfunctioned, threatening to delay production. The crew scrambled, repairing and jury-rigging equipment late into the night to keep on schedule. Their resourcefulness and teamwork shone through these moments, turning potential disaster into a testament to professional commitment. This experience fostered a sense of shared pride and collective accomplishment, reinforcing the bonds within the crew. The film's intense emotional scenes posed another challenge, keeping actors fresh and grounded during repeated takes of heartbreaking or tension-filled moments. The director instituted a practice of incorporating brief decompression periods after these scenes, where actors could step away from character, share reflections, or engage in lighthearted activities. These breaks helped maintain emotional health and performance quality over a grueling shooting schedule. It's a reminder of how much care goes into supporting the humanity behind the art. Makeup and costume departments also played pivotal roles in shaping character and mood. One interesting anecdote involves the design of a particular costume meant to symbolize the protagonist's evolving identity. The piece was made from delicate, layered fabrics that subtly changed color under different lighting, mirroring the character's internal transformation. The actress spoke about how wearing it influenced her posture and movement, allowing her to inhabit the character more fully. The costume designer's attention to such details reveals how visual elements inform performance in profound ways. Another behind-the-scenes gem is the crew's playful approach to long shooting days. To keep spirits high, the production often featured theme days where crew members dressed according to different eras or styles, injecting humor and creativity into routine. These events fostered camaraderie and kept the atmosphere lively, which in turn positively influenced the energy captured on film. It's these human moments, often invisible to audiences, that fuel the creative spirit. The film sound crew shared stories about capturing location audio amid unpredictable urban and rural environments. From traffic noise to wildlife, they had to be nimble and inventive to isolate the necessary sounds while preserving natural ambience. Their work involved long hours of listening and layering sounds to create the immersive soundscape that supports the film's psychological depth. The dedication and artistry of these technicians remind us that film is a multisensory experience shaped by countless experts. Editing presented its own set of challenges, balancing narrative clarity with the desire to maintain emotional nuance. The editor and director worked closely, sometimes debating how long to linger on certain moments or when to cut away. They prioritized preserving the film's contemplative rhythm, trusting the audience's patience and intelligence. This approach reflects a shared philosophy about storytelling that values subtlety and space over quick resolution. Music composition sessions were likewise collaborative explorations. The composer often visited the set, observing rehearsals and discussing character arcs with the director and actors. This close involvement allowed the score to evolve in dialogue with the film's emotional currents, resulting in a soundtrack that feels intimately connected to the narrative. The use of unconventional instruments and ambient textures speaks to the composer's inventive spirit and the film's blending of realism with magical undertones. Finally, post-production brought moments of unexpected delight. Test screenings revealed emotional responses that affirmed the filmmaker's intentions but also led to thoughtful reconsiderations of pacing and scene order. The team embraced feedback with openness, refining the film to enhance its impact without compromising its integrity. This iterative process underscores the collaborative nature of filmmaking as an evolving art. Silence and sound function symbolically, punctuating moments of emotional significance. The deliberate use of quietness creates space for introspection and heightens tension, while music and ambient sounds underscore emotional undercurrents. This auditory symbolism complements visual and narrative elements, creating a multisensory tapestry of meaning. The film's exploration of family dynamics serves as a microcosm for broader social themes. Relationships between parent and child, siblings, and community members illustrate how narratives of power, love, and identity are enacted and contested. These dynamics are portrayed with nuance, emphasizing the complexities and contradictions inherent in human connection. Themes of isolation and connection run deeply throughout. The protagonist's experiences of exclusion contrast with moments of tentative intimacy, reflecting the universal tension between solitude and belonging. The film's symbolic language captures this dialectic, portraying the painful yet hopeful process of forging identity in relation to others. The motif of masks, literal and figurative, appears throughout the film, symbolizing the roles individuals adopt to navigate social expectations. Characters wear masks to hide vulnerability, assert power, or conform to norms. The process of unmasking becomes a metaphor for authenticity and liberation, aligning with the film's thematic focus on self-realization. Time and memory are subtly woven into the narrative and symbolism. Flashbacks, recurring images, and temporal shifts evoke the persistence of past experiences in shaping present identity. The film suggests that transformation involves not forgetting but integrating memory, allowing for growth without erasure. The film's conclusion embodies its thematic richness, offering an open-ended meditation on identity's fluidity and the ongoing nature of transformation. Symbolic imagery, such as emerging light, open landscapes, or renewed growth, signals hope tempered by realism. This ending invites viewers to carry the film's reflections into their own lives. Engaging deeply with the film's themes and symbolism reveals a work that is both intellectually stimulating and emotionally resonant. It challenges viewers to reconsider notions of beauty, identity, power, and belonging, using visual and narrative language that lingers long after viewing. This rich tapestry of meaning invites multiple interpretations, making the film a living text that speaks differently to each viewer. It exemplifies cinema's power to illuminate the human condition through artful storytelling. As we reflect on these thematic and symbolic dimensions, we recognize the film's achievement in creating a layered, thoughtful, and moving exploration of self and society. It stands as a compelling example of how film can engage mind and heart, opening spaces for empathy, critique, and transformation. There's a certain magic in how a film comes alive, not just through the story it tells, but through the very ways it is told. The filmmaking techniques employed become the invisible threads weaving the emotional fabric, guiding us subtly yet powerfully into the world on screen. As a close friend who loves to share the intricate art of cinema, let me walk you through how this film's craft shaped its haunting atmosphere, pulling us deep into its delicate yet intense story. From camera work to sound design, editing rhythms to lighting choices, every technique was a brushstroke on a larger canvas that invites us not just to watch, but to feel, to linger, to reflect. One of the foundational pillars of this film's visual storytelling is its cinematography. The director of photography crafted a language of light and shadow that mirrors the protagonist's internal struggles. Instead of relying on bright, clear images, the film often bathes scenes in muted, natural light, soft dawns, overcast skies, and flickering candlelight, creating a palette that feels both intimate and otherworldly. This choice isn't merely aesthetic, it draws us closer, inviting us to inhabit the protagonist's quiet world where beauty and danger coexist in subtle tension. Handheld camera work is used strategically to enhance immediacy and intimacy. During emotionally charged moments, the camera moves with a gentle instability, as if breathing alongside the characters. This technique dissolves the distance between viewer and subject, making fear, hope, and doubt visceral. Yet, in scenes of reflection or confrontation, the cinematography shifts to more composed, steady framing, often symmetrical and balanced, offering moments of contemplation. This deliberate contrast shapes the film's rhythm, echoing the protagonist's oscillation between turmoil and calm. Close-ups are employed with great care. The camera lingers on faces, capturing micro-expressions, hesitations, fleeting glances, subtle shifts in tone, that reveal unspoken thoughts and feelings. This focus on detail aligns with the film's emphasis on psychological realism, allowing viewers to engage deeply with the characters' emotional landscapes. At the same time, the cinematographer occasionally pulls back to wide shots that situate characters within imposing environments, dilapidated rooms, vast fields, visual metaphors for isolation or vulnerability. Lighting is not just a technical necessity but a storytelling device. The use of chiaroscuro, strong contrasts between light and dark, adds dramatic weight and symbolic resonance. For example, a character's face half illuminated and half shadowed visually expresses internal conflict or moral ambiguity. Warm light often accompanies moments of connection or hope, while cold, blue-tinged light underscores alienation or danger. The interplay between natural and artificial lighting creates textures that feel tactile, making the film's world tangible and emotionally charged. The film's color grading subtly reinforces thematic concerns. Earthy tones and desaturated hues dominate early scenes, reflecting confinement and suppression. As the narrative progresses, richer colors, deep reds, soft golds, emerge, signaling transformation and empowerment. This visual evolution enhances the storytelling, giving color a narrative voice that complements dialogue and performance. Sound design is another cornerstone of the film's immersive atmosphere. Rather than overwhelming viewers with music or effects, the soundscape is carefully layered with ambient noises that ground scenes in reality while enhancing mood. The rustle of leaves, distant bird calls, the creak of floorboards, all are amplified or modulated to evoke emotional subtext. Silence plays a powerful role, creating tension and focusing attention. For example, in moments of confrontation or introspection, the absence of sound invites viewers to lean in, heightening engagement. The score is understated yet deeply effective. The composer uses minimalistic motifs, soft piano, gentle strings, interwoven with ambient textures to underscore emotional beats without dictating them. This restraint aligns with the film's overall aesthetic, allowing space for viewer interpretation and emotional resonance. The music ebbs and flows with the narrative rhythm, swelling during moments of revelation and retreating during quiet contemplation. Editing shapes the film's pacing and narrative clarity with a deliberate, thoughtful hand. The editor favors longer takes and measured cuts, allowing scenes to breathe and emotions to settle. This approach fosters a contemplative viewing experience, inviting audiences to engage reflectively rather than reactively. Moments of stillness are punctuated by more dynamic sequences, creating a balanced rhythm that mirrors the protagonist's emotional journey. Transitions between scenes are often subtle, dissolves, fades, or naturalistic sound bridges, enhancing continuity and mood rather than calling attention to the cut. This fluid editing style supports immersion, weaving disparate moments into a cohesive tapestry. The editor and director collaborated closely to ensure that every cut serves story and atmosphere. The film's mise-en-scene, its arrangement of setting, props, and actors within the frame, is meticulously composed. Each object and spatial relationship carry symbolic weight. For instance, the protagonist's interactions with certain objects, mirrors, letters, worn furniture, reflect internal states and narrative themes. The positioning of characters within rooms or landscapes often conveys power dynamics or emotional distance, adding layers of meaning that reward attentive viewing. Camera angles are used thoughtfully to reflect perspective and power. Low-angle shots amplify vulnerability or intimidation, depending on context, while high-angle views can isolate or empower characters. The cinematography frequently employs framing devices such as doorways or windows, symbolizing thresholds, transitions, or confinement. These choices create a visual vocabulary that deepens understanding and emotional impact. Practical effects and in-camera techniques contribute to the film's tactile realism. Rather than relying heavily on CGI, the production used natural elements, fog machines, controlled lighting, physical props, to create atmosphere. This grounded approach lends authenticity and texture, inviting viewers to inhabit the film's world fully. The use of reflections, mirrors, water, glass, is a recurring visual motif that enhances thematic exploration of identity and perception. Scenes involving reflections often coincide with moments of self-examination or revelation, adding a poetic dimension to visual storytelling. Sound editing and mixing play a crucial role in balancing dialogue, ambient sound, and music. The clarity of voices amidst rich soundscapes ensures emotional nuance is not lost, allowing subtle performances to resonate. Strategic layering creates depth, making each scene feel alive and immersive. The film sound team experimented with diegetic and non-diegetic sounds to blur reality and imagination, reinforcing the film's magical realist elements. For example, natural sound sometimes morphs subtly, hinting at the protagonist's psychological state. This sonic layering enriches narrative complexity. Lighting design also adapted dynamically across scenes to support narrative shifts. Warm, inviting lighting characterizes moments of intimacy or hope, while stark, cold lighting accompanies tension or alienation. This visual modulation guides emotional responses and underscores story beats. The film's use of space, both open and confined, communicates psychological states. Wide, open landscapes evoke freedom or isolation, while cramped interiors suggest entrapment or introspection. The interplay of physical and emotional space deepens thematic resonance. In terms of box office production, the film was crafted with a clear understanding of its niche appeal. Marketing emphasized its artistic qualities and emotional depth, targeting audiences drawn to thoughtful, character-driven cinema rather than blockbuster spectacle. This strategy proved effective, cultivating a dedicated viewership that appreciated the film's subtlety and nuance. Distribution choices favored art house theaters and film festivals initially, allowing the film to build critical acclaim and word-of-mouth support. This approach reinforced its identity as a serious, reflective work, appealing to cinephiles and intellectual audiences. The film's moderate budget was carefully allocated to prioritize practical effects, location shoots, and key performances. This focus on quality over quantity ensured that each aspect of production contributed meaningfully to atmosphere and storytelling. International sales capitalized on the film's universal themes and visual storytelling, allowing it to resonate across cultural boundaries. Critical success abroad complemented domestic reception, expanding its impact. Box office returns, while modest compared to mainstream releases, reflected strong engagement within target demographics. The film's longevity in theaters and on streaming platforms attests to its enduring appeal and the power of carefully crafted cinema. Reflecting on how filmmaking techniques shape the film's atmosphere reveals a work of art where every choice, visual, auditory, rhythmic, is in service to story and emotion. The deliberate interplay of cinematography, sound, editing, and design creates a sensory experience that immerses viewers deeply. This film exemplifies how technical mastery and artistic vision combine to transcend genre conventions, inviting audiences into a richly textured, emotionally resonant world. It's a testament to the power of film as a medium for nuanced storytelling and profound human connection. As we consider these elements, we come to appreciate not just what the film tells us but how it makes us feel and think. It's this fusion of technique and heart that elevates cinema from entertainment to art, a journey well worth taking together. There's something truly special about the layers of connection that develop between a film, its cast, and its audience, a dynamic dance of performance, interpretation, and reflection. When we think about the people who breathe life into characters, and then the viewers who receive and respond to those portrayals, we uncover a rich ecosystem that deepens the film's meaning and impact. In this story-like exploration, I want to take you on a journey through the experiences of the cast during production, their reflections shared in interviews, and the varied, heartfelt responses from audiences around the world. It's a tapestry woven from personal insights, artistic dedication, and communal resonance, a story behind the story. From the very beginning, the casting of this film was approached with a keen sense of purpose. The director, who also led the project with a vision for authenticity and emotional depth, sought actors capable of conveying the nuances of complex, often contradictory characters. The lead actress, tasked with portraying the protagonist's journey from marginalization to empowerment, immersed herself in the role with a rare combination of vulnerability and strength. In interviews, she often speaks about the challenges and rewards of inhabiting a character who is at once fragile and fierce, a duality that demands subtlety and courage. One striking recollection from the lead actress is how she and the director developed their working relationship. Given his dual role, he was both a creative collaborator and a source of mentorship. Their discussions went beyond lines and blocking to include explorations of the character's psychological landscape and the themes underpinning the story. This authenticity shines through in the performance, inviting viewers to connect deeply with the character's inner world. The actress playing the stepsister brought a different but equally compelling energy. As I think about all we've uncovered, the layered characters, the evocative settings, the intentional craftsmanship, the resonant themes, I'm reminded how rare it is to find a film that invites this kind of deep engagement. It's a film that asks us to slow down, to reflect, and to embrace complexity. And in doing so, it holds up a mirror, not just to the protagonist's journey, but to our own struggles with identity, acceptance, and change. If this exploration has stirred something in you, curiosity, empathy, a desire to look more closely at the films you watch, I hope you'll join me here again. At Screen Studies, we seek out these stories, these cinematic experiences that linger and provoke, that invite us into thoughtful dialogue with art and each other. Your support by subscribing means we can continue to dive deeply, to explore not just what films say, but how and why they matter. Thank you for walking this path with me. Thank you for your attention, your openness, your willingness to engage. Together, we uncover more than stories. We discover the power of cinema to illuminate, to challenge, and to connect. Until our next journey, keep watching closely, feeling deeply, and allowing film to